Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Welcome to Green Beauty Intel. What will we be doing here every week? Looking stuff up, breaking stuff down, using common sense. And don't you hate that hashtag? I hate that hashtag. Anyway, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be factual. I will always alert you to my bias. I will do my best to present both sides. And you better believe there's gonna be references, and they'll be linked below. So kind of to kick off this new segment, I thought it would be great to talk about something that came up this week that I thought was very pertinent to this conversation, that I feel like is very pertinent to green beauty. And yeah, it just jumps right into everything we want to be talking about. So let's start from the beginning, okay? What is the origin of green beauty? We have to be real and say that in some ways, I'm not saying always, but in some ways, green beauty was born out of fear. The fear of what topically applied products were doing to our health without our knowing it. But as Yoda said, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. So this topic, fear-mongering, if you want to put a phrase on it, has been covered by myself multiple times, has been covered by other great green beauty gurus, and yet it's still part of the conversation. And I think what we need to acknowledge, those of us that have been using green beauty products and those of us that have been predisposed to this lifestyle. Because remember, I've mentioned it before, but I was raised by hippies. You know, my mom was using only coconut oil in the 90s. She was the first person I ever heard mention parabens. So it's not like this was a huge shift for me from the way that I was raised. So when you base a movement on fear, it's shaky ground. It's a shaky place to start, and it will, to some degree, always have a place in green beauty, sadly, to a lot of us. But I think it's important to start here because fear doesn't have a place in my green beauty. I don't think it belongs in your green beauty. I don't think it belongs in your wellness journey. And fear, like Yoda said, only gives birth to more emotions that don't have any place in our life. Stress, anxiety, gossip. Fear just doesn't lead to anything good. So I think what I'll mention now is my background. I've mentioned this a bunch of times, but I work as a nurse. And something that has been very apparent to me in my nursing career is that death has no bias. Cancer has no bias. Illness has no bias. Getting hit by a bus has no bias. Dying in a car crash has no bias. Bad things happening to you have no bias. So you can make every right decision in your skincare products. You can avoid every potentially dangerous ingredient. You can drink green juice every day, and sometimes it's not gonna matter. You can make every bad decision humanly possible and still live. So let's just throw out the fear, okay? Because that's just not where we wanna live. And stress from fear, from anxiety, from all of that is going to kill us a lot faster than 1% of a preservative in a product. So there we go. I hope you'll come along with me on this journey from episode 1 to however many episodes that we do, because we're all about a logical approach, a common sense approach, a balanced approach to living, to product selection, and saying that we're not going to live in fear. That was a really motivational talk, wasn't it? It sure was. But I'll tell you something, okay? Don't think that I have it figured out and I walk around every day so assured in all my decisions. This week, I realized I had given my kids something to eat that had GMOs in it, and I cried. I cried, okay? So it's not just you, it's not just those around of us, it's me too. It's everyone we're looking at. I mean, life is scary. Life is stressful. There's all kinds of things to have anxiety about. But if we can slow down, take a breath, step away from emotion, and that we can move forward in some sense of balance. So what I want to talk about first is this moisturizer. This moisturizer came under fire on Instagram in the past couple weeks. I'm not going to name out who posted the post. This is not a drama video. It's not a call out video. It's not a critique of anyone. It's more to say, let's break it down. This is a perfect opportunity to cast out fear. So the moisturizer got attacked for several reasons. First, they don't have the complete ingredients list on their website. Does that sound sneaky? Yeah, it does. However, the brand has kind of as their label styling, as their branding, has the ingredients right there on the front in bold letters. So in my opinion, it's not as sneaky as it seems. Now, they were also roasted a little bit for being considered clean beauty. Now, as have been to the chagrin of many, green beauty, clean beauty, natural beauty, non-toxic beauty, whatever you want to call it, doesn't have a definition. However, there's not. And what we're seeing day after day after day is cosmetic chemists are realizing there's a lot of money in natural products. Many Americans and people worldwide are wanting to use products with safer ingredients. So this is a big money-making industry. Are we going to see people trying to get under the wire? Yes. Do I think this particular brand and this particular moisturizer are? No, I don't. The reason I want to talk about this is because as we see the clean beauty, green beauty, non-toxic beauty industry expand, we're gonna have to accept that everyone's definition of clean is not the same. And that's not bad, and that's not wrong, okay? It's not wrong for everyone's definition of what they'll accept as a preservative to not be the same thing. And there's no levels of elitism, okay? Because you can die from getting hit by a bus. It won't matter if you had McDonald's or a salad for lunch, okay? All right, now let's do exactly what I talked about. Let's talk about the moisturizer. It's by Malin and Goetz, $50 for 4 ounces, pretty good deal. Let's break down the ingredients and let's try to make sense of whether or not you or I think this is a clean beauty product. So I'm gonna put the ingredient here and then I'll talk about it. I'm not the greatest at pronouncing everything, but I've also listed everything below with what I perceive it does in the product, so you can actually follow along in the description box if you want. So the first ingredient is an extremely dangerous chemical called water. Okay, the second ingredient is, this is a fatty acid used as an oil kind of in a product to make a moisturizer. It's the nuts and bolts of a moisturizer. You see this ingredient in green beauty, conventional beauty, across the board. Pick up a product randomly in a store and I guarantee you probably see that ingredient in there. Okay, now we get to the third ingredient. This can raise some eyebrows. It's an ethoxylated ingredient. It's synthetic. It's a low molecular weight solvent and skin conditioning agent. Okay. Common in kind of crossbreed green beauty conventional products is you see a lot of ingredients that make the product feel good on the skin. You don't see that as much in green beauty because they're using solely oils for the most part and solely butters. But when you transition over to conventional beauty and more of these like crossbreed products, you see a lot of these synthetic ingredients that contribute to the emollient style of the product. Okay, it makes the skin feel good. Next up, now here we have a silicone. Okay, it's debatable how people feel about this ingredient. However, it has a very large molecular weight and it's mostly believed to not be absorbed into the skin. And what it does is it's a very occlusive agent. So is it unrealistic to see it in a moisturizer? No. In fact, it's probably a great ingredient to see in a moisturizer because from this ingredients list you can tell it's probably geared towards people with acne prone skin. It's a very oil light moisturizer. Does dimethicone work well in a product that's probably going to be used during the day? Yeah, because you can probably use this as a this moisturizer as a makeup primer on top of it being a moisturizer. So there's a logic of why that ingredient is in there. Next up, now This ingredient is a favorite of mine. It's a humectant. I love seeing it in every product. Next up, this probably contributes to the texture. Now we have something a little scary here. Okay, another ethoxylated ingredient. So we've already hit the 2 ethoxylated ingredients within the first 10 ingredients of the product. One could say that's kind of a heavy proportion, and we'll get more into ethoxylation or ethoxylated ingredients coming up next week. So that can be an emulsifier, an emollient product, helping contribute to the texture. Next up, we have another emulsifier. So we know we need to mix fatty products and water, we need emulsifiers and stabilizers, right? Another sciencey word, probably a skin conditioner. Probably a stabilizer, okay? Then here we go. A favorite ingredient of mine, Panthenol, vitamin B. Now, did you know in concentrations of 0.5% to 1%, this baby can make your skin feel so soft. In fact, it's so sticky and lovely as a humectant that you can go overboard with it in products really easily, and I know because I have. So when I see this in a product that's getting ripped on, I'm like, why would you rip on a product with Panthenol in it? That's a great ingredient. Okay, next ingredient, possibly a slip modifier. Again, there's a lot of things in these crossbreed products that are contributing to the texture of the product. Here we go, another one. Emulsion stabilizer. Skin conditioner. Beloved, lovely skin conditioner. Makes the skin feel great. So we already have 2 active ingredients that are science-based that work really well for skin that you'll see in expensive products. And here we are seeing in a product that's retailing for about 12 something an ounce, okay? Next up, vitamin E. Great to see a vitamin E in a vitamin E moisturizer, right? Then phenoxyethanol. Okay, we know phenoxyethanol, that's what I'll actually be talking about next week, is functioning as the preservative. It's usually used in concentrations of less than 1% because that's how the manufacturer recommends it. Again, we'll talk about that more next week. And it's not a complete preservative. So why are we seeing phenoxyethanol and a bunch of other ingredients listed in here as preservatives? Because people are trying to avoid parabens. Okay, parabens are on the black list for green, clean, non-toxic beauty. So they're attempting to use a preservation system that is what is considered somewhat clean by these larger industry standards. Okay. Then my favorite ingredient in the product, sodium PCA, a beautiful, gorgeous humectant. Then if you just scroll down through the rest of the list, you see preservatives, pH adjusters, you see the chamomile scent, the chamomile active, and hyaluronic acid. All right, now, wait for it. Out of this entire list, which is pretty long, 2 of the ingredients rate a 3 on the EWG. 1 of the ingredients rates a 2, the rest rate a 1. Now, like I said, the EWG isn't really my standard of ingredients information. However, it gives us some sort of frame of reference. A lot of people are familiar with their rating system. So, I don't know, folks. I think the EWG would probably rate this a pretty clean product. What do you think? Now, like I said, so I'll tell you my bias right now is I don't see this product as being greenwashed. I actually see it as being, it's a probably pretty great product for a pretty great price. And it's probably a pretty nice hybrid for somebody who's trying to transition to more cleaner beauty. Let's celebrate the little steps, right? Is this something I'm gonna use? No, probably not. I prefer a little bit more, I don't know. It looks oil light for me and I don't have acne prone skin, so it's not something I would probably reach for. But let's acknowledge that it's budget friendly, it's preserved properly, it contains evidence-based skin actives, and it was made in the EU. And I can't remember, but somebody was recently trying to tell me something was, must be so much cleaner because they're made in the EU and the EU has higher standards. That's why they can almost be considered clean beauty. I forget what brand it was. So anyway, bada bing, bada boom, what do you think? What are your standards? So that's what we'll be doing here every week. Come back if you're not bored.